You are now entering the box. Welcome back to Inside the Box. Taylor Stevens with Synergy HomeCare is here today.
Yay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yes, you as well.
So we were talking a little bit, I just cut us off because it was just an interesting conversation, but that balance of like becoming, like managing and like being a leader and, but also like maintaining somewhat of a friendship or whatever. So I was part of this emerging leaders group hosted by O'Shea, which was really cool. And before you leave, I'll show you, but it talks about these like different amounts of like, these different like levels of leadership of like being somewhat personal and having somewhat of a personal connection. And it's like, I think it rates it on like 4 levels. It's either 3 or 4, but it's like, you know, you have a little bit of knowledge. This one you're a little closer. This one you're too close. And I'll show that to you before we leave, though. It's super interesting.
Yeah, I think that's super important as you grow.
It's a hard balance to find.
Yes, it is.
So while you're here today, what do we got here? Sending Love Overseas is back, huh?
It is year 2, and we're super excited.
How did last year go?
It was so wonderful. Yes. So we ended up sending out, I think, 38 packages overseas, and there were still left over for the next month. So
Nice.
it was so wonderful. I just love whenever we do something like this for the community or in this for the troops, and the community really comes together.
Yeah. So why don't you give everybody a little breakdown of what this is?
Sure. So Sending Love Overseas, it kind of says it for itself, but Synergy HomeCare and Springfield Clinic have partnered for year 2 of this event. And what this was we were trying to think of something that we could do for the community, but how to really give back and make it personal. And with February kind of being that month of love, what better people to send love to than our military troops that are overseas. So this was created to where we can collect donations and we can send these care packages overseas.
Yeah. And it looks like basically anything that's normal use day to day or entertainment here. Razors, shaving cream, sunscreen, tampons, panty liners, games, toothpaste, mouthwash, DVDs, Q-tips, baseball gloves.
All the things.
Bandanas, baggies. Yeah. Anything that I think pretty much it seems like anything people use daily or
right.
might provide some entertainment or little
and
break.
These are all inexpensive things. You know, we're just asking for the little, carry-on ones that a lot of times you can find them at like the dollar store or whatnot for, $1.50. And we just are asking for those little sizes of but just your basic necessities that you need.
Yeah.
Because it's things that you don't really think about. And on top of that, we also have a school that's going to be making Valentine's Day cards and writing thank you letters and all the things to put in there. And it's really important. And I think it's one of those things that gets overlooked a lot of the times. You don't think about it, especially if you don't have family or somebody who's close to you in the military.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. We go about our day to day, but we don't think about how this happens. How are we able to have our day to day?
Yeah. I've had family that was actually my dad, my uncle, my grandma, my grandpa, they all served in the Navy. But that was before my time. So I had my first experience with somebody close, not family, but I definitely consider him a brother. My neighbor, he got deployed to Africa a while back, and that was the first time I ever experienced that because it was just so weird, and I was like so worried about him because of like the stuff they were doing and what his position was. And just,
how long was he gone?
3 or 6 months? I think it might have been like it was 3 or 6 months. I think it was 6 months. It was a while.
Either way, still a while to be away from home.
Yeah. He was. It was interesting. Weird pictures
and
videos.
Yeah, the things that they see and do, and then they have to come back to this normal life, and there's that transition there. But I was talking with my stepdad actually about this, and he had always said, you know, when he served, one of the best things ever was when you got these letters and these little care packages, and it's like that little bit of home all the way away from home. And to this day, I mean, he still has those letters from those kids who are now grown adults. He has those in a tote. He has the pictures, and it just means so much to know that what you're doing when you're over there isn't being overlooked and people are thinking of you.
Yeah.
And I think if there's one thing that Synergy HomeCare and Springfield Clinic have that's very similar, is that we're very community oriented and we're always thinking, how do we give back to our community? So this was a really fun collaboration between the two of us to give back to our troops.
Yeah, for sure. Where and when can people drop stuff off?
Yeah, so next Monday, it starts February 3rd, and it'll be February 3rd to February 14th. There are 7 different locations that people can drop them off at. There's Synergy HomeCare, which is off of Cokie Mill and Isles, and then there's 6
And
different...
that's right by the corner, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yes. A blessing and a curse being next door to them. Spend a lot of money. But there are 6 different Springfield Clinic locations, and all of these locations you can find on Synergy HomeCare of Central Illinois on their Facebook page, and it has the locations on there. It has the list of items on there. All you have to do is walk in. There'll be a bin right by the door. You just drop it off, and then you can go. It's super simple, but we'll be collecting for 2 weeks so that we can get these sent out in February.
Okay. Is there, on your Facebook, is there like an event, or is it just posted, or?
It's just posted. So you'll just scroll down a little bit. It's right there, and we keep reposting it so you don't have to scroll too far. But you're able to see all of it on there. And
Maybe pin that to the top of the page.
Hey, look at that. Learning things every day. I will do that. But I think it's so wonderful, and I'm hoping that the community is willing to give back some more this year, because last year it was so wonderful.
Yeah, it'd be nice to make it even bigger.
Yeah.
Seems like that's usually what happens with these things. You get the ball. Last year was the first year you did it, right?
Yeah, and if there's one thing I've seen about Springfield, they love routine, and they love when you create an event and then it becomes yearly. So if you're going to do something, just keep on doing it.
Yeah. How how do you figure out where this stuff gets sent? How's that work?
So we also partnered with Springfield Cares, which is a local nonprofit for soldier mailing, and they work with different stations and whatnot. So all we have to do is we get the donations to them, and they meet monthly, and they send out care packages depending on which areas are in need of them. So they coordinate all of that. If you've never heard of it, it's a wonderful nonprofit. I mean, they're great people. They have the best hearts, and they have just volunteers that come once a month, and they do a dinner at the TRN club, and they're packing stuff. And when I helped last year, I was like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to help and do all these things. And I was almost like kind of back pushed away because they're moving like they have a system going. This person's on this one, this one's over here, Q-tips go here, socks go, like it was like they knew what they were doing. Wow. And it was such a fun assembly line, really, but it was really cool to see the things that they're doing and the lives that they're changing.
Nice. Well, I think that's a great thing. And yeah, like it was, he had been deployed before, my friend, and but man, it was emotional for me because I was just worried about him. You know what I mean? And he kind of has dealt with it before. He'd been to Afghanistan and Iraq and several places, so I know like their living situations over there aren't like, and it obviously depends on where you're at, but I know them, they were like basically living in big shipping containers. Mm-hmm. Only they had these like little tiny rooms in the shipping, the shipping containers were divided into these little rooms.
Right.
So yeah, no, I could totally see like just trying to picture in that situation, like receiving something like this and how, uplifting that can be,
Yeah, like I said, it's that little bit of home, and you just have something in those letters. It's nice to read something that's just uplifting and positive, and these little kid handwritings. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah. So yeah, have your kids draw a picture, write some letters, include it with some stuff, and send it on over. Actually, it'd be kind of fun to let your kids like try to pick out some stuff for them. Like we've got baseball caps, What else is on here? Just lotion, shampoo, any kind of personal care stuff.
Yeah, all the things. And you brought up a good point in letting the kids pick out things, because I think it's so important to get kids involved in these types of things. It not only gives them like purpose, but they start to understand life in a different outlook. And I think it's really important to start that so young, so as they grow, they're able to see the different things in life, and maybe they're a little bit more grateful for when they do see somebody who's in uniform, that it just becomes part of their day-to-day. Hey, thank you. They start to appreciate a little bit differently.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's one thing that people need to try to instill in their kids, that respect and appreciation for the people that serve. Anytime I'm with my kids and we see like an officer or a firefighter or a military person or anything like that, I always tell them to go up and tell them thank you for their service, because, I mean, without them, where would we be?
Who knows? And
everything would be burnt down. There'd be robberies. There'd be, who knows if we'd even be a country.
Well, yes, and I think it's exactly that. Just getting them used to being more appreciative and not just overlooking everything. Like some kids see them and they're just like, oh, cool, or there's some that are like, I want to be just like them. Yeah. And I just think this little bit, and I do that a lot with my daughter when I bring her to do, whether it's this or something else in the community, I try to really explain the why. And it really helps her better understand what we're doing, and that we're not just doing this for fun. There is a purpose behind it.
Yeah. My my oldest son, I've been watching like Avengers movies with him, you know what I mean, and getting him into all that stuff. And we recently watched the first Captain America, and I didn't realize I was going to have to describe to him about war and the bad guys and why they're doing stuff. And it was just kind of interesting to try to explain to him.
Give the backstory and it.
Yeah, because in the first one it's like the Nazis and this and that, and obviously there's a lot of made up stuff in there too. But in general, it's based off of the war.
He was probably mind blown at that point. Like, what?
Yeah.
I think this whole project is very important to all of us, but for Synergy HomeCare, it's super important because we do serve veterans.
What prompted starting this?
So I just try and think. We're inside the box right now, but I try and think outside the box and just think of different parts of the community and how we give back. And I was just really thinking about our veterans, and I think it's because it is something so key to Synergy HomeCare that I was like, why don't we do something more than just providing the care? But these military troops are overseas, where someday they're going to come back, and then there'll be that veteran that maybe is in need of care, and it just makes it more of a full circle, and we're able to give back while they're still there doing.
Yeah.
And that was super important for myself and for Synergy. And when I presented it to Springfield Clinic, they didn't even think about it. They were like, absolutely, like, bring us on, let us know if you have more ideas. And it's been a really nice collaboration, and I'm really excited about it. I love being able to work with our veterans in all the things, really.
Yeah. So you guys serve a lot of veterans at Synergy?
We do, yeah. So we work with the VA to where they can use us for home care services, and they get this service paid for at 100%. Wow. So it's really nice when you walk into a home and they are a veteran, and you're able to educate them on a service that they could be eligible for, and they don't have to pay out of pocket. You did your time. Let us help you. Yeah. And I think that's really big for my mission in the last couple years and this year moving forward, is just really educating our veterans and people on how we can be that resource. And this was just that little tidbit that was a little bit more, a little bit extra. How do we give back before they even need this care?
Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody again what Synergy is and what you guys do?
Sure. So Synergy HomeCare, what we do is we hire caregivers to go in the homes, wherever that may be, and help people of all ages remain independent in their home. So whether that's your basic companionship, personal care, so bathing, toileting, standby assist, homemaker services, housekeeping, laundry, dishes, folding clothes, transportation of any kind, whether that's a medical escort, grocery shopping, a Sunday drive. You want to go to the casino? Let's go. Our goal isn't to.
I might volunteer to help with that.
Right. It can be so fun, and I think just getting that educational piece over that we're not here to take away from anybody. We're not here to take control. In fact, these clients are in control of their lives and their care. We're here to create that normalcy, but let's do it safely. So that's what we're all about.
What do they usually do? Just say this is the stuff I need help with, or give you a list, or how does that usually work?
A list would be helpful, but that's not normally how it happens. So a lot of times people think that they don't need home care. So a lot of phone calls that we get, people are in panic mode because it's always, it won't happen to me, and then it does, and now what? So they're more panicked. So we have a client care manager that would go in the home or hospital or wherever they're at to talk to them. And really, it's just about listening to what they're talking about, what the doctor says and whatnot, and puzzle piecing those together to build that customized plan of care. So now we know, how do we take care of you? How do we enrich your life? And how do we not just get through the day, but have the very best day? And it's not just about the care that's needed. It's listening, what did you used to do for a living? What are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing? What's your normal day to day? So we can continue to do that. But like I said, do it safely. If you want to go outside and garden, heck yeah, let's go do that, but let me help you. And that's a huge part of that companionship with it. And I say customized, and I mean that. I've been with Synergy over 5 years now, and I've never seen two clients that have the same plan of care, because everybody's day-to-day is different. And we want to make sure that we're not, taking Bob's plan of care and we're like, this will work for Sally, because it absolutely won't. We want to make sure that they're happy and healthy and just truly living their best life.
Yeah. What's your position at Synergy now?
So I'm a regional community liaison. So I have the Decatur area, and our Springfield area is my territory. And my job truly is to educate. I want to paint Central Illinois and Synergy HomeCare and get people to understand that we're not here for a sale, but for a solution. And here's how we can do that. Everybody knows somebody that needs a little extra care, whether that's 1 hour all the way up to 24/7. And let me explain how we can do that and be that resource to you. I have never said I'm in sales, because I'm not. I don't want to sell anybody anything. I just want to help, whether that be just temporary or everyday, or what that looks like for you. Let us help you. Let us help you do the things that you like to do. Just because you're aging does not mean that you can't enjoy the things that you've done your whole life. Let's do that, but teach me how, so we can do it together, and you can build a new friendship.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what? And I'm just always interested in positions and stuff like that. What's your day to day usually look like?
My day to day is different every day. So it just depends. A lot of the beginning of the year is what I call planting seeds. So I'm scheduling coffees and lunches and presentations, podcasts like this, educational things to get in front of different people to educate, to let them know what we can do and how we can help, but trying to cover all grounds. I say it's like magic. I'm always trying to be in 6 places at the same time, which works out somehow. But really, it just depends. I started my morning off today with a morning networking with Rise. So I did that, and now I'm here. I'll do drops at different assisted livings, the hospitals, making sure everybody feels appreciated, and we continue those relationships. Is there anything we can do for you? So it really just depends.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Every day's different.
Yeah. Do you help with their marketing and stuff then? It seems like that falls
Yes.
a little bit in that.
Yeah, so I do the marketing side, whether it's events like this or social media. We have somebody that does that side of it, but I take pictures and whatnot, and I send it over and write a little blurb, and then she makes it even greater and puts it out there. So on that side of the marketing, I guess it would be like I'm a face. I'm just out here like, hey, Synergy here, Synergy's here now. Look at all the things that we can do for you.
Yeah. Well, that's important position for businesses to have, especially a business like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Staying
I mean,
connected and
there's so many home cares in Springfield alone, and Synergy has been the number one, best of Springfield, best of this, and yada yada. But I think it's because we're pivoting all the time to make sure that we're providing that very best care for people. But it's been a fun ride. I started here in the very beginning when they opened their doors here in Springfield, which was January 2020, right before COVID and a whole shutdown, which was fun. But yeah, so we've built this into something so wonderful.
yeah. Is Synergy nationwide, or is it?
Correct.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
There is about 450 different Synergy franchises across the nation. And just a little tidbit, Synergy HomeCare of Central Illinois has been and is still number one in the whole nation.
Wow.
And those aren't bragging rights. It's more so just to put it out there that to show that we are truly changing our ways to make sure we're staying in the now. You know, we're making sure that everybody's getting that good care. When COVID happened, that really pushed us to move forward quicker than we were ready for, but going with Zoom and setting up all these things and different ways we had to do things. So we have leadership that's very involved, which is really important for something like this. You know, we're taking care of people, and we want to make sure that we continue on that good path.
How were you guys still able to like going in and helping people during COVID?
Yes, because we were essential. So we were still doing that, but I had to think creatively because we were launching a brand new home care here in town. So how in the world are we supposed to get out and tell people that we're here when we can't go in facilities, we can't go in the hospital, we can't do all sorts of things that, you know, your basic marketing, this is your go-to. Well, we can't do any of that, so let's try and figure it out. So it did cause us to be very creative, but we were able to make it work.
That's awesome. You have to go over to Decatur very much?
Yeah, I try and split my time pretty 50-50 between our Springfield area and our Decatur territory, just to make sure that it's even love on both sides, which isn't a terrible drive. You know, yeah. I've grown a lot of really great relationships over there as well. Of course, Springfield will always be near and dear to my heart. I've met so many wonderful people here, and this office is truly like my baby. You know, it was brand new. We went through COVID time trying to do all that, and it's been nurtured into something so wonderful, and your top home care agency in the area. So it's like my baby, and it's so fun to watch it go.
How tough was it to like obviously being in Springfield, you know, the community a little bit more. How tough was it to like go to another town and kind of do the same thing there and learn that community and, you know, meet people and all that stuff?
It was a little bit of a struggle because it's the name of the game. It's about your connections. It's about trust. And when you walk into a new community and you're like, hi, I'm the new kid, you know, and it's very nerve-wracking at the same time because you want to build these relationships, but people are a little weary, especially in healthcare, because the turnaround time. So like, is this person going to stay? Are they being salesy? Do they really care? So you truly have to prove yourself. So that was a struggle in itself. And then I just think that Decatur is a different area than Springfield. So the way they do things maybe is a little different than here. And so I had to learn to adapt to that. And it's great now. I'm still trying to build it even more, just like here in Springfield. But it's been fun.
Nice.
Once the struggle was done, I'm like, this is fun. We're all having fun.
Push you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, that's where you grow.
Yeah, for sure. Is there? I assume there's like different like networking groups and stuff over there, kind of like there is here.
Yeah, it's very similar setup. And then I created our own. It's called Sip and Chat, where it's our healthcare circle, and then maybe some that filter in from like the chamber and whatnot. But just because, again, everybody needs to know the resources in your community. The best way to be a best member of the community is to know how you can help. You know, if you have a neighbor that is trying to get their mail and they're struggling, or is constantly calling you because they've fallen or whatnot, you should be able to, hey, I know a girl, she can help you, let me get her phone number. Or a new business is starting and they're struggling and they look at, hey, I know a place, they can help you get going. Just being able to have those resources is so important.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, we haven't We have some clients in other towns, but we haven't like officially tried to expand in those towns by like doing similar things, joining chambers and doing all
You're
that
going to
stuff.
get there. You're exploding.
Yeah, it's just that's kind of controlled growth is what we're going for.
Yeah.
Because if you grow too fast, that also has its problems. I always joke around. It's like I probably could have grown this whole thing a lot faster if I wanted to, but then it's like, what would that have been a good thing? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you want to be able to have the best customer service. And if you're, too many clients, not enough staff or time or what it may be, then, you're not being able to give that 100% to the clients that you do have. So
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of really dialing in, packages and processes and all that stuff over the last year or two. That's kind of, I think, setting us up for some of that, to make it a lot easier.
Do you have anything fun for 2025 that you're able to talk about?
So right now we're focusing on, basic growth, not too aggressive, but we are doing a lot of getting SOP stuff dialed in and getting training for hiring dialed in. I've been reading a lot, and there's a lot of businesses, the level that we're at, a lot of businesses get stuck at this level from the research I've done and stuff like that. And before I started digging into it, I kind of was thinking through myself, like, all right, what's next? How do we keep growing? What's holding us back? And I kind of came to that conclusion of training and standard operating procedures. And then after doing a lot of research and stuff, that is basically where we're at size-wise. That's where a lot of businesses hit, and then they don't move to the next level because of those things. Because when, we have one salesperson right now, one official salesperson, and taking on one or two clients a month at this point is kind of a lot. You know what I mean? Especially for what we do. We have to ramp them up. We have to get their branding dialed in. Usually we're getting a website made. So it's a lot goes in when we bring on a new client. And getting to a point where we have really standardized training. So if we hire another salesperson or whatever that may be, like as we get more clients, be able to hire fast and train fast and get the new people just into the mode of everything we're doing, is kind of the next key to really being able to grow and grow faster.
Faster, stronger, better.
So it's a lot, and there's never enough hours in a day, that's for sure.
No, there's not, especially when you're doing all the things. There's never enough time.
What so you've been at Synergy since 2020.
Correct.
So almost 5 years.
Yep, my 5-year was at the beginning of January.
Yeah,
so
nice. Well,
I've teetered over. Now I can say over 5 years.
Perfect. What's been one of the toughest things being there to, like, I don't know, just learn, or that's pushed you the most?
That's pushed me the most? Growth would be one, but I think one of the toughest things is in this industry, you have to open your heart and you have to be so loving and caring, but you have to guard it at the same time, because we do deal with the elderly. So eventually things are going to happen and they're going to pass, and it's gonna hurt. So figuring out
building those relationships, and then
and knowing that it's going to come to an end at one point. So really just figuring out that part was really hard. Especially I'm very empathetic, and so it's hard when those things happen, but knowing that you were able to give that piece back to them, you're able to give maybe that youth back, or they built this house so many years ago, their parents raised them and they raised their kids, and we were able to provide that for them to stay in their home. And even though now that they're gone, there's a sense of happiness there that you have to be able to understand that you were able to give them.
Yeah.
So that part's been really trying, but...
So does your service a lot of times help keep people, allow them to stay at their home longer as opposed to going to like a retirement home or something, would you say?
Correct. But there's sometimes that we go into an independent living or an assisted living and we provide that care so they don't have to transition into a nursing home or skilled or something like that. That's their home to them. So we can provide that care to help keep them in place there. Or we've offered sitter services at the hospital. You know, if somebody's at the hospital and they have kids, but their kids have kids, so they need to go home and do dinner and bath, and now they're running back over here, but they have a meeting in the morning, and all that, we can place our caregivers there to be that peace of mind for them so that their mom, dad, loved one isn't alone there as well. So when you're in that, what we call a sandwich generation, it can be a lot. So there's a lot of different ways. You know, we've taken care of teenagers, disabled, young adults, all the way up to end of life care.
Yeah. Do you experience a lot of, like, I just think of, like, you know, my dad when he was battling cancer and going downhill and stuff like that, just he you know, he didn't want help with this or that, or like didn't think he needed it or whatever. Is that something you guys run into
Oh yeah,
a lot?
all the time. And again, it's just trying to be adaptable and build that relationship. And sometimes we have to use the viewpoint of, Dad, this isn't for you at this point. This is for me. This is for my peace of mind. I'm tired. I need a break too. So we're going to do this, but it's for me.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to go that avenue, it's totally true. But there's a lot of people, and it is a huge part of your pride, you know, when your whole life you've been independent, you're the provider, and now you're at a point where you can't. And along with what you're saying, about a year and a half ago, I lost my dad to cancer, and it was really hard. You know, he kept saying, very last weeks, and he just kept saying, I'm going back to work. I got to go back to work. You know, I've got lots of work to do. And we're all like, you're not going back to work, you know. But it's hard to let that go and then eventually get to a spot where you are accepting and vulnerable enough to where you're willing to get that help and care. But at that point, we're able to give back to the family. So at that point, they're not being a caregiver. They can continue that relationship as a loved one and not as a caretaker in those final days, weeks, months, or whatnot. Because sometimes there's a resentment that happens there when you are caretaker and loved one.
Yeah.
Because you're exhausted, you know, you're being burned on both ends, but you're trying to be kind, but you're frustrated, and there's just a lot that happens.
Yeah. No, I left when my dad was on his last few months. I actually took a leave of absence from work and was basically his caregiver. I would go there, so I would spend nights with him, and then there was different people during the day, like friends and family, that would kind of spend days with him. But I could definitely see where, like, people could develop some, like, almost getting pissed off, you know what I mean, of like one thing or another, and it's like getting frustrated with them because they won't listen or whatever it may be at that point. So no, I could totally see where that comes in for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. And I feel like in this line of work, you wear a lot of hats. You go in as, you know, I'm your client care manager, but now I'm going to be a social worker, and now I'm a mediator, and now I'm a therapist, but now it's a lot of different things to be adaptable. But to be able to take all that away from the loved one, and they can just be there for that love and support and the laughs and all those things, that's one of the best gifts that you can give somebody.
Yeah, that's awesome. What sorry to hear about the loss of your dad. What kind of cancer got him?
So I call him a science experiment, because it was out of nowhere, and it was like he had this a floating mass, and nobody could say. And I remember it was November because it was right before my birthday, and they called us to the hospital. He went to the ER, was having some pains. They sent him to the hospital, and they called us all to say bye. There was nothing we could do, and we were like, what? Like, what? Where did this even come from? Yeah. So we all weren't ready to give up, and we're like, we can't. And he ended up going to Chicago, and he got treatment and whatnot, and it was working. so we thought. And it was, I think, about May when he was going in. It had shrunk and they were going to schedule to remove it and things were looking good. And then at that appointment, they're like, just kidding. It's actually grown, I believe it was 3 centimeters and you have maybe a month. And so it was like, what just happened? And nobody could give us an answer. They're like, well, now the chest is inflamed. There's just all this stuff going on. So it was just like, nobody really knows exactly what it was. They just kept saying it's a very aggressive cancer. There's nothing more we can do. Which for me, being in the industry I am, the way that he was explaining how he was feeling throughout that, I was like, there's no way. There's no way that he's getting better, like the symptoms he was. But everyone kept saying, that's just the chemo, it does that. And just the way, I don't know, he just kept saying how much he hurt, like his bones were hurting, everything was hurting. And then at some points it was almost like he would act like a kid, which was really weird, you know. And he's like, I'm sick now, you know, just saying like baby things. And I'm like, no, like something's not right here. So I guess I just didn't want to believe that, you know. And he definitely thought he had more time. And I remember he texted me and he's like, I'm not ready to go. I still have so much more to do with you guys. And that was all very heartbreaking. But I think the hardest thing for me was telling my daughter, like, Grandpa's not here anymore, you know. So that was...
How old was she when he passed?
6.
6.
Yeah.
She got to at least get to know him a little bit.
Yeah. One of the last things he did with her is he took her to get her ears pierced. Nice. So, you know, we had a good last memory for them, but it's just a weird thing. It was really weird going into the hospital, seeing the same people I see all the time for work, but now I'm there as a loved one.
Yeah.
And it was
Other side of the...
Yeah, it was such a weird switch. And I was so fogged is all I walked in and I was just like, what is even happening right now? And walking out in the hallway, and I'm not a crier.
Very overwhelming.
Yes. And not a crier, especially in front of people, strangers, feeling like nobody. So I had to walk in the hallway and all these people that I know from work, and I'm like putting these deer blinders on because I'm like, nobody look at me. But I think it made me look at my job a little bit harder than I already did.
Yeah.
With everything I went through, and now
firsthand experience.
Yeah, and having that connector piece and the empathy and everything that these families go through, I already sat there and went through it with them, but now being able to I know how you're feeling. I know you're angry right now. There's some people that are very mad, and you think what did I do to you? But they're not mad at me. They're mad at life. They're mad at what's going on. And being able to understand that is truly a big part of the puzzle.
How long between when they found it to when he passed? How long did it end up having?
July.
What was the amount of time though? Was it?
So it was November, and then he passed in July.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't very long, and it was just weird, you know. He was supposed to have a 60th birthday party, and he didn't make it to 60. So again,
I didn't even make it to 60. Geez.
No, and it's just wild to think tomorrow isn't promised. So that was a weird time in my life, just trying to be able to be vulnerable, because I get that now. I get it. Yeah. It's hard, but yeah.
It's interesting you said he kind of started talking like a kid, because one thing I realized is there's this weird circle of life where you almost end up back where you started, because my dad was the same way. He was very much like a baby, and he couldn't really do stuff for himself, couldn't really talk, and was literally chewing on things, like the remote. He was chewing. I literally went to Walmart and got him kids toys, because he was chewing on things. Super hard to see and watch. But yeah, it was like he was a little baby again.
And it's weird, because I think your parents are your superhero, so they're invincible, nothing can happen to Superman, you know, and then you literally have to watch him deteriorate.
Yeah.
And you have to put on a face and be there for him and adjust to them doing the baby-like things, and maybe they're going to get repetitive, or they're not going to listen to you, and being able to adapt to that is hard. The whole thing is hard. And I remember I was talking to him and he was laying there, but I was talking really loud because that's how I normally talk to my clients, like, hey, how's it going? And he just kind of looked at me and he was like, I'm sick, I'm not deaf. Like, and I was like, oh, he's still in there. Sorry. Like, so there was still like that little bit of humor and whatnot that went with it. But it was just a really weird point in my life. And I think it just made me look at life differently.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to go through. Yeah, I almost, part of me wanted to document it to be able to share with people so they understand. So my dad, his started off as a lung cancer, and he was a smoker. But I think really one of the things that was probably terrible for him is he was in the Navy and he was on submarines, under the water for like months at a time. Well, back then you used to be able to smoke on the submarines underwater, and I'm just like, God, they're just in a hot box of cigarettes, like.
But that was normal.
Yeah, so I'm gonna guess that probably wasn't good for him at all at that time. But yeah, his eventually spread, and they became aware of his is because his eye started drooping. And he was waiting to go to well, first of all, they wouldn't send him to a specialist. He had to keep like basically bitching for them to finally refer him to a specialist, which was very frustrating. And then they referred him to a specialist in St. Louis. Well, that guy was like booked out like months. And
which is frustrating.
Well, yeah, and with stuff like this, the sooner you catch it, the better chance you have. So he was retired at the time, and he said, well, put me on the schedule and then just let me know if you have a cancellation. I could be down there, an hour and a half. And it was still like, I think like a month or something had gone by, and he got a call and he rushed down there. And they ended up catching it, at that point. But it's like, it might have been 2 months. They might have been booked out like 3 or 4 months actually to get to this guy, because I think it was a couple months. And then even a couple months on top of that of him bitching to just try to get the referral and to get insurance to cover it and all that crap. So really, we probably could have caught it like 4 or 5 months before we did, which, super frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just kind of a weird thing. And it was funny too, because his dog at the time, or our dog, whatever, had it wasn't like cancer related. I don't remember what was wrong with the dog, but she was having something like that, like right before he did, like her eye started drooping or something. he's like, what's going on, man? The dog's eye's drooping, now mine is.
Oh, pets are just the best. And I think that's a good point of like, you truly have to advocate for yourself and your loved ones. Like, we know ourselves and we know our loved ones the very best. And if we notice something's wrong, like, you have to advocate for yourself and you have to keep pushing, because one person can say no, but like, this isn't right. So to keep advocating, keep being heard until you get the answers.
Yeah. We just had a friend who lost her 12-year-old son, and it was a super frustrating situation because it was, let me get this thing about this timeline. It was 2 days before Christmas. Yeah. It was 2 days before Christmas, and her son was 12 and her daughter was 2, I think, and they were both sick. They went to the prompt care. Prompt care did an x-ray, listen, everything like that. And they were just, they were sick. And I told them to get some rest, whatever. So they go home. The next day, Christmas Eve, the daughter was getting better. The son was getting worse. And then Christmas Day, they woke up and they were opening presents, and the son like wasn't smiling. He could barely move. She was like, it was really freaking her out. And she's like, hey, like, prompt cares are closed, but I'll take you to the ER. Do you want to go? And he's like, yeah. She takes him to the ER. They go there, and apparently the doctor there was like super dismissive, like almost made her feel bad for bringing him in. and didn't do an x-ray, didn't do a blood test, nothing. And was kind of, again, just making her feel terrible for bringing him in. And she's like, are you sure nothing's wrong? You know what I mean? And basically sent him away, went home. The next day, he was unresponsive in his bed. So she rushed him to the ER, or called an ambulance, rushed him to the ER. I think he may have coded in the ambulance, maybe. Go to the ER. They're working on him. They basically, like, there's nothing they could do. They kind of figured out that it was, I think it was the flu that had turned into pneumonia, and then he had gone septic. So they called for an emergency airlift to St. Louis. Well, the skies were really shitty, and they weren't supposed to fly, but apparently, like, a couple of the pilots were like, no, we'll fly to, like, try to save this kid. And they flew him down there, got him down there, had, like, the best doctors down there, and they thought everything was going good, but literally later that day, they were like, there's nothing else we could do. And they had to freaking pull the plug on his life support. Yeah, it was, like, I think it was, ended up being the day after Christmas, maybe the following day, but it was just a terrible situation.
That is a nightmare. Like, when I heard about that, it was like my mom heart just. And
can you imagine? I can't even.
Like, it makes me want to throw up. It makes me have goosebumps. Like, I can't. I have no words for it, and
Yeah.
it is like, and you don't want to be like, what if? But
Yeah.
what if? You know, I don't know. That's just absolutely horrible, and no parent should have to go through anything like that. It was
crazy. And then, like, a week or two later, another one of our friends' kids, who's, how old is he? 4, I think. He basically, like, had to go to the ER, and he's got and then he had to be airlifted to St. Louis. And he's
for the same illness?
No, he has, like, he's got, like, stage 4, I don't know what it is exactly, kidney failure or something like that. And he basically needs, like, kidney transplants. And he's
horrible.
Like, has to go through dialysis and all this stuff. And I mean, he's alive, thank God. But yeah, he's in a super shitty situation. I think she had to quit her job because she has to, like, take care of him.
Right.
And I think they're basically, like, hoping for a kidney transplant. And I don't know how that works with a kid that young. I assume it has to be someone of a similar age. Like, they can't just stick an adult kidney in there, right? It's like, be big. I feel like that would be a huge kidney to fit into a little kid.
Right.
But yeah, I'm like, what is going on, man? All my friends' kids have this crazy shit going on, but it just makes you really appreciate, health and
life.
Yeah.
And I had wrote a post out. It was right after the holidays, because it's like, you want to be happy and cheerful. It's the best time of the year, but it just felt really heavy this year. And I just can't tell if lives are being taken sooner, or if I'm getting older and I'm just realizing it differently. And like, I look at life different. But it just felt really heavy this year. And that's why things like this and things like the community events that we're doing, it's just really trying to bring not just joy, but if there is a family or somebody going through a struggle, like, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And that's similar to, like, my friends Adam and Allie, when their little girl had neoblastoma and all this stuff. It was like everybody saying, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry.
What is that?
It's cancer.
Oh, okay.
And I did a benefit for them, because I was like, no parent should ever have to think about, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to save my kid's life? I don't have the money. So it was like, yes, I am sorry, but what can we do? And it's trying to be proactive with things like that, and getting involved in the community to make sure that people are getting the help that they need. And if you need a voice for awareness, if you need something, like, that's what we're trying to do, is be here, and try and spread that love and joy and positivity.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine, like, again, that was just my friend that got deployed, and I can't imagine being like a 5 or 6 year old, and you're dad or mom having to leave for 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're young, that's, you look
Yeah.
at how much of your life that is,
Right.
from a percentage standpoint. It's like crazy.
It is, and that childhood goes so quick. Before I had my daughter, I had looked at going into the military, and I didn't end up going that way. And then it was a few years ago, more than a few. I mean, it was probably like 6 years ago. I had thought about it again. And I had met with a recruiter, and we were talking about it. And just going over everything, I'm like, so you mean to tell me, like, at any point you can just call me and be like, it's time to go?
You're getting deployed.
And I'm gone for, you can't tell me how long? I couldn't do it. And so it really, again, makes a different perspective on our troops that do. They go, they have to say bye to their family, their friends, the birthdays, the holidays, all of these key points for a child to fight for all of us. So why wouldn't we want to give back and say thank you, and we appreciate you, and I see you for doing what they're doing?
Yeah, I think he missed, my friend, I think he missed like several birthdays, anniversaries, like from all his deployments, which is, again, just tough. And, even like, obviously being a parent now, like, it's one thing I try very much to do is not miss anything.
Oh, yeah. I have bad mom guilt. If I miss anything, it can be a 10-minute play in the middle of the day, and I'll be there. You're racing cardboard boxes today. I'll be there, But I'm blessed, and my work allows me to be flexible that way. But just like what you're saying, you miss like the tiniest thing, and it was like, oh my gosh, how could I have missed that? I couldn't imagine doing the most that these troops are doing.
Well, I've been glad to, just with social media and with the people I've met, like seeing videos talk about it, having people tell me directly, like just how fast your kids grow up, and to like get as much time in with them as you can, especially when they're young, because once they hit 14, 15, they just don't even want to be around you
don't
anymore.
Make eye contact.
Yeah. So hoping to be a cool parent where that's not the fact, but
same goals.
Yeah. So I was watching this one video, and I don't remember what the calculation was, but he was basically like, you get, I mean, you could do the math, but you get this many weekends with your kids, and you're like, damn, that's all. I think it was like 800 and something or something.
Yeah, and
like
if
that.
you just think of it, you get 18 Christmases.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, one weekend down, it's like, what do we do this weekend? Shit.
Right. And I was just talking about this last night with a ladies group that I'm in, and we were talking about that because we were talking about our devices and how much we miss because we have it in front of us.
Yeah.
And it is, you get so much time, and we waste so much of it just being all over the place, or like you sign them up for all the kids up for all these things because you want them to be there, but then you're like, oh my gosh, we were so busy. Did anybody even enjoy this? And it's just trying to find the balance and making sure that you're enjoying each and every moment with them, because it goes so fast. You blink and I'm laying in bed scrolling through my memories. I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember her being this tiny,
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how fast they grow, from just the size difference between a baby and 5 years old.
Yeah, I mean, she's almost as tall as me now, and she's only 8. And it's wild, just the growth and all the things.
Well, it's awesome what you guys do at Synergy, and I think the Sending Love Overseas is fantastic. Again, everybody, this starts on February 3rd, which is this Monday.
Correct.
And you can drop off things at Synergy HomeCare and any of the Springfield Clinic locations. Again, pretty much anything you think somebody would enjoy or need overseas, to personal items, personal care, or just something that might put a smile on their face or they might have fun with.
Yeah, and all those things like the shampoo, conditioner, body soap, anything like that does need to be travel size. It makes it a lot easier to put them in the care packages. But yeah,
and you can get more of them.
Yeah, exactly. You can fit so much more. But just in advance saying thank you so much to you and to our community and anybody that participates in this. It's something so overlooked, and we're just hoping to have a great turnout with this. Again, you can find that flyer on Synergy HomeCare of Central Illinois. You can find that on our Facebook page. You can find the locations, the items we're looking for, and if you have questions, you can call us at Synergy and let us know.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for what you're doing here.
Yes, thank you so much.